Everyone wants to live an inspired life, yet so many people search for happiness following the footsteps of peers and taking advice from people who have different values and outcomes to which they're searching. There are people born into wealth, graduated from the best universities in the world, and there are people who have none of that and yet are living extraordinary lives full of fulfillment and reward. The purpose of this podcast is to share insights and strategies that allow you to question the status quo and think freely, so you can design your life and be who you want to be. We get one life. Time is our most valuable asset. I believe that when we're free and able to focus on meaningful work, we become better human beings. This is Always Free, and I'm your host, Jason Graystone.
Welcome to the leading podcast for financial empowerment and wealth creation. Subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. You can connect with Jason on social media and subscribe to the Jason Graystone YouTube channel for weekly videos. Don't forget to also subscribe to the weekly newsletter to receive frequent educational content and action steps to help you design your life so you can be who you want to be. For news on all future events and updates, go to jasongraystone.com.
Alright, welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 5. Thanks for tuning back in. This week I'm going to go into a bit about time, because time is really what this entire podcast and the strategies that you learn in this podcast I'm going to be going over, in the weeks and months to come. It's all stemmed off of the value of time, because when you have time, you're able to really, it contributes to so much towards independence. So the more time you've got, the more independent you are. And that's not just in your personal life, it's in your business. You can make your business better, you could make your life better by having more time. And when you have time, you can really come out with your most, your best ideas, your most soul-guided decisions are made when you've got time, because you're not chasing the buck, you're not chasing the money. So in this podcast, I'm really going to go over some kind of, some traps that people fall into to do with how they look at their time and how they spend their time. And really, at the end of the podcast, I'm going to give you the first real strategy, powerful strategy to start working towards your financial independence. So when we talk about time, the thing with time is, when I was a kid, and I still hear it today, you kind of hear everyone talking about time is money. You hear, oh yeah, time is money. I'm sorry I was late. Yeah, time is money. All that kind of thing, and it's the completely wrong thing to say. Like, that is just completely wrong. Time is not money. Like, you should not ever think that your time is money. And I'll tell you why. Because if you're going to build a business, for instance, let's just give that as an example, your earning ability, if you've got this thing that time is money, your earning ability is limited to the amount of time in the day. So there's only a certain amount of hours in the day. And that means that if you want to earn more money, then that means you've got to work more hours, right? So you're going to end up being tired and frustrated, and you're going to end up resenting your business. So time is not money. How I look at it is the other way around. I think money is time, and I've been over this in the previous episodes when I said, money is freedom, and financial independence is how much time you can buy into the future. So you don't have to be really, really loaded. You don't have to be multi-millionaire. You don't have to have loads of money to buy time. It just depends how much time how much money your time costs, right? So let me just give you the business example again. A lot of people, they start a business and they're maybe a one-man band, maybe they've got two, and they're doing all right, okay? They're pulling in some work and they're getting lots of money, but there comes a time where they cross like a threshold of how much their time's worth. And we don't ever know how much our time's worth. It's subconscious. And you breach this point where you think, I'm resenting this. And that's the point where you value your time more than the money that you're receiving. A lot of consultants fall into this trap when they're charging for a meeting and then the meeting runs over and they resent being on the call because time is valuable, right? We never get it back. But let's just say in business that you've got a couple of guys or one guy is ready to take on the business. Because he hasn't managed his money properly, he can't afford, or she can't afford, to take on another member of staff. They struggle because they take everything out of the business, they don't spend their money wisely, and they're not thinking about what time the money can buy. So they're thinking about what trinkets they can buy and what, toys they can buy, rather than buying time with it. Because if you can buy time with it, then you can buy another member of staff, or you can buy, you can get someone in to do half of your job and buy even more time. And most people don't do that. And it's because we've got this whole thing in our head that time is money. So every hour you put in, you're being paid for it, and you think, I deserve to go and spend, this is my money, like I deserve to go and spend it because I put the time in. And obviously down the road when I got into trading, I completely realised that time isn't money at all. There's no time for money correlation at all. You can earn as much trading in an hour as you can spending all day at the charts. It really doesn't matter. There's no time for money correlation. So one of the things I've been teaching my kids is every now and then they come up to me and they want a job to do. They want, they might want something. Okay, so say they want a computer game or some book or whatever it is that they've got their eye on at the moment, and they'll want something and they'll come to me and they'll ask if they can do a job. And what I do is I always pick a kind of really horrible job, like the worst job around the house, something like cleaning the gutters or sweeping our patio pool area and sweeping the pool and stuff like that. And it's a job that, is quite horrible to do. It's horrible to do. But what I'd say is I'm going to, I'd do a deal with them and I say, I'm going to pay you quite a bit of money for this. I'm going to give you £100, say. So I say, I'm going to give you £100 to do this job. And what we do before they decide to take on the job is we agree that they only get paid when the job gets finished. So they only get paid when the job gets finished. And what that means is if it's 98% finished, they don't get paid. If it's half done, they don't get paid. Until it's 100% complete, they don't get paid. And so we shake on it and they agree on it and they have to get the thing done. And even if they get really annoyed by the end of it and they've spent 3 hours doing the job and they decide to give up, they've done it all for nothing and they don't get paid. The reason I like to embed this or instill this into this habit into them and this approach to working is because I like to teach them that we get paid on results. Okay, so there's no exchange for time. It doesn't matter if they do it in 2 hours, 3 hours, 10 hours, 1 hour, 10 minutes. As long as the job gets complete, they get paid. And they also get paid a large sum. So it also teaches them that there's going to be jobs out there that if you can solve for them that people don't want to do and you go and do that job for them, you will get paid more than anyone else. If you solve a big problem, a big pain that someone doesn't want to do and it's really annoying them and it's getting to them, that you can go and serve them and you can get paid a lot more. So that's another good thing it teaches. The other thing that it teaches is it's not always going to be fun earning money, right? But once you get the result, you get the cash. And then finally, it just teaches them that once you commit to something, that's almost like a down payment for the result. So you have to finish. We don't start things that we don't finish. And then once they do that, so they get paid, if they do complete the job, they get paid a nice little lump for it, considering, they're kids, young kids. And then as soon as they get it, 10% goes straight into the investment fund. So they've got a little investment fund set up that 10% goes into, so they're building that habit as well. Now, it's a real nice entrepreneurial way of thinking because I'd rather they build the habit of valuing the result and charging for the result rather than, and also valuing their time and not charging for their time. But there's a lot of people out there going about it the wrong way. They're just working their nuts off and getting really, really strapped. And it's because they've got this big idea that the more time and the more hustle and the more hard work they put in, the more money they can earn, and the more money they earn, they'll get to that goal of being a millionaire, or, having that net worth, that high net worth. And I just think it's a bit fluffy, and I'll tell you why. Because first of all, the day that most millionaires, let's just talk about millionaires first. Most millionaires are equity millionaires, which means the day that you, on paper, you cross that line of becoming a millionaire, you've got either cash in a business, cash in a property, and you wake up one day and the house price has gone up, or something's happened, and just on paper you've become a millionaire. Well, the thing is, your life doesn't change that day. Your life does not change that day, I can tell you. It carries on the same, right? You still do the same things, and nothing changes. There's literally nothing. It didn't happen overnight, and your life is exactly the same. Just on paper, you've crossed £1 million. It doesn't change your life. What changes your life is the day that you get up, and you don't have to set your alarm. You set you turn your alarm clock off on the Friday, and you don't have to set it ever again. That is life changing, and that has nothing to do with being a millionaire. So one thing I hear all the time is people say, I'm going to be a millionaire. And I say, well, what do you mean? How much? Because you can, by the way, this is why it's fluffy. You can literally go to another country, and because of the currency, you'll be a millionaire. The exchange rate and the currency difference, you'll be a millionaire, because you go to some of these countries and you exchange your money and you've got millions, because just the way the currency is. So you can sort of see what I'm saying about a millionaire is a bit fluffy, right? But they say, yeah, okay, let's just say I want to be worth 2 million, £2 million. And they really haven't done any kind of maths or thought about what it would actually look like to have £2 million. And I know plenty of people that have got £2 million and are stressed as hell because they haven't thought wisely about valuing their time, and they've gone out and they haven't done the maths, and they've just crashed in. And let's just give you an example. Let's just say that you want to be worth 2 million, and I say, okay, I'll go out and get you 10 properties worth £500,000 each. Okay, so 500 grand a piece, and then you'll be controlling £5 million worth of property. Now, to control that much property, of course, you've got to have some debt, in the form of mortgages. So let's just say the debt is 3 million. So you've got £5 million worth of, property, which is obviously not liquid. It's just the money's stuck in that property. And then you've got 3 million of debts and loans, or mortgages, we should say. And your net worth at that point is 2 million. Okay, so I've given you 2 million. I've got you £5 million worth of property, and you've got 3 million debt. So you've got a net worth of 2 million. And at that point, they've achieved their goal of becoming a millionaire. They've accumulated a net worth of £2 million. Okay, so on paper, they're worth 2 million. And that's it. That was their goal. But let's just talk about the costs of that. All right, so let's just say the interest rate on the mortgage is about 5% per year. The debt's 3 million, and the interest repayments are going to be 150 grand in interest alone. That's 12.5 grand per month. And then on top of that, there's going to be some maintenance costs. Let's just say, I don't know, another 10 grand per year per property. That's another 100 grand per year on top of the 150. So that's 250 grand per year in costs. Okay. And then let's just say there's a crash, or there's like a dip where the rental market, they're struggling to rent houses. So they've got more houses than people want to move into. Okay. And it does happen. I've seen estate agents give away incentives and cashbacks and, prizes and things like that. Okay, so let's just say, in this example, out of the 10 houses, only 5 of them are currently being rented, and, they're being rented out for 2 grand per month. So 5 properties at 2 grand per month, the total's 10 grand per month, or 120 grand per year in income. But the costs are 250 grand. The running costs are £250,000. That means that the running cost minus the rental income is costing 130 grand per year, which is almost 11 grand per month. So the person that wanted to be a millionaire and be net worth 2 million is now bleeding almost 11 grands per month, and they are stressed as hell. They are stressed out. So can you kind of see that millionaire net worth isn't always everything if it's spent the wrong way? It's when people don't value their time and they're not making decent decisions, good decisions, and they think that having the more money is going to move them more to financial independence, but it's not necessarily true if it's not spent in the right way. Financial independence isn't really anything to do with how much you earn or how much you're worth. It's everything to do with how you spend the money you do have. Even if it was just a mortgage, let's just say that you had a mortgage and you bought a house, okay? So you took out a loan to buy a house. The house is 300,000, okay? And then it increases to 1.3 million. All right. So let's just say you took out the loan, 300 grand, you bought the house, it went up to 1.3 million. At that point, you have 1 million of equity in your name and you're a millionaire. All right. You've got a net worth of 1 million pounds or $1 million. But the question is, what do you do then? And this is what I'm talking about. When you cross that barrier, what has happened? Nothing's happened. Nothing's changed. You're a millionaire, but what are you going to do every day? You still need to go to work to pay for the running costs of an empty house. You can't just, take a piece off of the house and buy dinner with it. You just can't do that. What you have to say is every house at that price has gone up as well in your street. So unless you downgrade, which is like literally downgrading your standard of living, if you like, you're still going to have to put that money into another property. And the whole thing here is really about spending the money wisely, thinking about your time as opposed to buying stuff. Okay, so how can you make more time? So I'll just tell you a little story quickly about, we just moved into this house and my son was collecting football stickers and his friends were collecting football stickers. And one of the friends had some kind of paper round, and he came round and he was kind of ahead of the game with the football stickers. All right. Now, my son wasn't massively into football, and neither was this kid actually. And it appeared that they'd all collect these football stickers to kind of outdo one another. Everyone was in it to try and get the most football stickers or finish the book first. And the kid had a paper round, so everyone was a bit jealous of the kid because he was accelerating in how many packets of stickers he could buy. And the kid came round and he was like, "Yeah, I've got some more stickers. I've got all these shiny ones, and I've got all the best players. The keeper page is full." And I said, "Well, how's your paper round going?" And he said, "Well, it's all right." And I said, "What do you mean it's all right?" He said, "Well, I get £11, but I could do with a bit more because I want to finish this football sticker book. I want to get this sticker book done, and at the moment, I can only afford 10 packs of stickers, something like that, five or 10 packs of stickers." And I said, "Do you like football?" And he said, "Yeah, it's all right." And you could tell, he wasn't fanatical about football. He didn't really care. He just wanted to complete this sticker book. And I said, "Well, how much are you spending?" He said, £10. And I said, "So you get £1 left over of your paper round?" And he said, yeah, and it's enough for like a drink or whatever. And I said, "So your job's all right, but you could do with a bit more money." Okay, that sounds familiar. And I said, "So what's the goal?" And he said, "Well, I just want to complete this football sticker book first, basically." So essentially he was spending most of his money from his paper round on stuff that he didn't really care about, but he just wanted to get the sticker book done as quickly as possible so he could show off to his friends. Now, it made me think about the next door neighbour, because we live on a private estate and the next door neighbour rolls in, he's earning around 250 grand a year. And I was thinking about this kid and I thought, well, if he's earning £11 a week, and so that's £4 left over per month if he's got £1 per week left over, which basically, if you divide that up, he could probably survive for a few days, right? So probably maybe even a week. Okay, he might even be able to survive for a week based on his expenses, which is a can of Coke, he said, and a couple of sweets, right? So he might be able to live for a week before he has to stop buying that stuff. So I was thinking about the neighbour, and he's on 250 grand a year, and I look over and he's got three cars on the drive. He's got a cleaner, he's got a nanny, he's a member of the private club, he's got he's got the golf club, he's got the top end gym membership, he's got the cleaner, the gardeners, all this thing, and the guy's always telling me that he's stressed as hell, and he says, and when you ask him how his job's going, he goes, "Oh, it's all right, but I could do with a bit more money. I could do with a bit more." And you think, I wonder why, and it's because he's got no. It's all relative. He's got no. He hasn't got any more time that he can buy into the future than the kid doing the paper round. So it's all relative. When you boil it down and you speak to the guy, and you say, well, okay, well, if you lost your job today, how long could you live for? He'll tell you that it's about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And believe it or not, that is the average. That's normal, right? Most people, I think in America, most people couldn't live beyond 14 days before they have to drastically change their life somehow. When you think about it like that, you start to think in terms of time, the value of time, more than buying stuff that you don't really need to kind of show off to people that you don't really like with money you haven't got. And you're not thinking about the bigger game, the exponential game of buying your time first. Because once you've got the time, then you can create whatever the hell you want, and you can earn more money than you've ever dreamed. So now you've heard that kind of way of thinking, I want to start sharing with you some of the strategies to start really taking control of your personal finances and starting to move towards your own financial independence. And one of the things we need to do is, before we do anything, we need to what I call stop the bleeding, right? One of my old mentors, he used to say, he was in this, the armed forces, and when he was out in Afghanistan, they was taught that if you find someone bleeding on the field, what you do is you stop the bleeding immediately. You don't try and get him to cover or get him out the field or try and get him to safety, because what good is that? You might have a few minutes, right? If he's bleeding, what's the point in getting him to a safe place? Because he'll be dead when he's there, right? So the first thing you do is stop the bleeding. And if you think about it, let's just say that your house was flooding one day, and you came into your house and the basement had flooded. You wouldn't stand there thinking about ringing someone or trying to sort out your insurance. Or what you'd be doing is you'd be trying to find the source. So you'd be trying to find the stopcock, the origin of the water supply to your house, and that would be the first thing you turn off, because until you turn that off, the water's going to keep coming. So we want to start thinking in terms of stopping the bleeding. So in order to do that, you need to assess how we're spending. Because I just mentioned to you that there's going to be guys who earn 250 grand a year, and paper boys who have the same amount of wealth. So it's no difference between the two. So what we need to do is just need to start thinking about how we're spending that income. So one of the things to do is to what I would say is print out all of your bank statements. So get all of your bank statements printed out, go through them line by line, and write down a complete list of everything that comes out of your bank account. Now, and this is going to be uncomfortable for people. I know people that can't even look at their bank account. They can't log into their bank account. But it's really, really important that you do. If you're going to take control of your finances and you can't take control of your life, you need to be able to look at this in the face. This is the first step. So go and print everything out. And what we're going to do is we're going to write down everything we're spending. And there's a couple of apps that I'm going to recommend. One's called Yolt, YOLT, Yolt.com. And there's one called moneydashboard.com. And what you can do is you can actually link your bank to these, and it will track and it will categorize everything you're spending. So the task isn't to change your lifestyle. What we want you to do is over the next 30 days is link your bank to one of these, or write down what you've spent so far, track everything that's left your bank, and then in the next 30 days, just be aware of it, but don't change your habits. So if you go up to buy the coffee and you think, oh, I've got to track this in the dashboard, don't stop doing it, just do it. And after the 30 days, what we want to see is kind of how much you've spent on different categories. So how much have you spent on confectionery? How much have you spent on coffee? How much have you spent on fuel? How much have you spent on meals, going out, drinks, all that kind of thing? The little trips to the car garage and picking up convenience food and stuff like that. And we want to start tracking that stuff, because if we're going to stop the bleeding, we need to know where the bleeding is. And next week, I'm going to start obviously sharing some mindset stuff with you as well, but I'm going to be talking about how you can really optimize those expenses. So it's not about scrimping. It's not about, living like a peasant. It's about optimizing it so that we accelerate that journey to financial independence. And I'm going to be talking about something called your amygdala in your brain, and how we can start calming that thing by building a cash buffer. So I'm going to go over that next week. Hopefully you've enjoyed this podcast. Hopefully it's given you a little bit of a mind shift in terms of how to think about time and money, because, as I said, time isn't money. It's the other way around. Money's time. And if you can get that in your head, then we can start really accelerating that journey. So thanks for listening. I look forward to seeing you next week. Don't forget to rate this podcast if you haven't already. Please give it a review if you haven't already, and please share it, because there's lots and lots of people that are going to want to hear the information on these podcasts and they're going to find value. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next week.
Subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. For news on all future events and updates, go to jasongraystone.com.